obviously we're going to start with the City of Light, the final. You're wearing...
Yeah, for the champions,
Seems appropriate.
Seems indeed.
Very appropriate, especially with a dragon and the other weird animal.
2011 third kit. Yeah.
All right, that's one for the enthusiasts out there. Let's get to the game. The narrative, we were both there. The narrative, the flow of the game, very simple. Liverpool had a lot of chances. Mm-hmm. Real Madrid tried to play on the break. Kind of, I thought, grew into the game.
Yeah.
Got their goal with Vinicius in the second half. Thibaut Courtois was man of the match. Personally, I think it's wrong because it was all about Courtois. He was part of it.
Yeah.
But how'd you see it?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, Klopp said it. If the man of the match is the opposition's goalkeeper, there's maybe, something going on there. I think Liverpool were the better team, but or certainly the strongest team in the sense of the chances that they had, the way they played that game, the way they kind of controlled it. But you're right, Real Madrid grew into it. The goal is a bit lucky in the sense that Valverde has a shot that becomes a cross, and then that Vinicius is completely forgotten by Trent Alexander-Arnold. I'm not
You're
sure.
100% sure that was a shot from
100% sure that was a shot. And the way his body is positioned, I'm not sure what Virgil van Dijk is, what he's doing, and why he's showing his bum to Valverde instead of trying to, at some point, come across and prevent the shot or the cross. But those mistakes happen. And on the other hand,
interesting you pick on Van Dijk, because a lot of people would pick on Trent.
So Trent certainly is ball watching, and he looks first, where's Vini, on, let's say, the 30-yard line, more or less, and then completely forgot. Never looks again where Vinicius is. For Van Dijk, this is not good enough. I'm sorry. You can't let Valverde run towards you, run, and then you turn your back. And literally, there's that photo where you see Van Dijk's bum in the air when Valverde is hitting the ball. I mean, you don't defend like this. So, but Real Madrid didn't make any mistakes. And again, it's thin margin. A final like this, you lose it on mistakes, and Liverpool made one. Real Madrid didn't make any.
So we're not going to give Valverde the benefit of the doubt that because it's obvious that he's squaring up to shoot.
Yeah.
And because I feel charitable because I'm in a good mood because the club season is over, I'm going to choose to believe that Valverde wanted to square up as if to shoot, but then knew very well that if he whipped it really hard across the face of the goal to the far post, there was a good chance Vinicius was going to get there. Because he was squaring up.
Laces.
Sorry?
No one crosses the ball with his laces. No one. You don't cross the ball with your laces. No, you don't. You don't.
You may choose to do that if you're.
No, you don't. You don't.
If you just want to get it into the middle hard.
No, you don't. Gab, with your laces.
He's Valverde. He's from Uruguay.
I know, but
all right, you do.
No, okay, I'm happy to. I'm charitable.
If you believe that though, that he's squaring up to shoot. Well, regardless, I think the effect. I know we all had to go. Obviously, Alexander-Arnold. I suspect the reason he got sucked in was obviously Benzema makes a run to the near post. Konate goes with him, rightly so. Mm. He felt, all right, he's shooting. If Alisson parries it back out, I need to be there to clear it away. And perhaps that's more important than Vinicius, who's miles away. But of course, Vinicius is quick. I don't know. I like Trent. I'm getting the benefit of the doubt. Carlo Ancelotti, 14 wins. He said something that I've never seen anybody win without also being lucky.
Yeah.
It's kind of a life lesson here. All you can do is give yourself, and for me, this is a transition to Klopp as well.
Yeah.
Because you can say, you can turn this, they got to the finish line in 4 different competitions, right? And you can turn it around many different ways. You can say, oh, but look, they didn't score a goal in 500 and whatever odd minutes in the finals and stuff. Yeah. And look, they lost, here Courtois was man of the match here, it was just 1 point against City. Okay, fine. You can also turn it around the other way and say, they won on penalties in the other 2 domestic cups that they won. So to me, all you can do is get there. And then at some point, you need a bit of good fortune.
True.
Or at least not be unlucky, right? And in the end, 2 out of 4 maybe it feels about right, no?
Yeah, I think it's a bit cruel in a way because it's
because it's the 2 big ones, you're saying.
Yeah,
right? And
it's such an amazing team. It is. Yeah. If you look closely, though, they've never beaten a team in the top 4 in England. So they've had an incredible season in the league and finished super close to Liverpool, to Manchester City without beating any of the top 4 teams through the season. So, which is, 6 games is a lot not to win any. They didn't score. They lost 4 games out of the 63 that they played, which is not many at all, and yet you still come short into the two biggest competition where you're there until the end. I think they didn't score in only 5 out of the 63 games. Leicester after Christmas, when Salah missed the penalty against Inter on the second leg, when they struggled, to be fair, and Inter played really well, but they had that 2-goal cushion from the first leg, and then obviously the 3 finals. So it's really hard you look at it and say this almost was the perfect season. And I think even had they added the Champions League, it would have been the best season in club's history to do that treble. But in the end, they came short, and there are some disappointing results, not beating any of the top 4 teams, not scoring in any of the 3 finals. It's also a way of seeing it, maybe. I don't know. I think it's an incredible team that deserves maybe more than just the 2 domestic cups.
Let's go back to Courtois. Because I spoke afterwards to a colleague of ours who's based in London, who's Belgian, who knows Courtois really well from back in the day. And he said, and you see this with some athletes, about how it's what we used to call kind of like bulletin board material, right? They feel the need to psych themselves up. It's like the prize fighter who puts the picture of his opponent up. And he actually came out and he mentioned that somebody in England had made a list of the top 10 goalkeepers. 442
magazine.
The Muppet version, I don't know, but whatever. It didn't include Courtois in the top 10.
That's
he used it as motivation.
Yeah.
And obviously Chelsea fans call him a snake for the way he left and blah, blah, blah. And if Kepa had worked out, I might not hate Courtois so much. But I met him. I think he's an incredibly nice guy. Really, really lovely young man. But whatever. Is it a bit cheesy that people feel the need to psych themselves up this way? Or do we actually like the honesty that says, I use this as extra motivation, and they get annoyed by it?
Yeah, I like the fact that he's saying it. Does it mean that he's got a big ego or not? I'm not really sure. I don't know him that well to say. But
I don't think it's about ego. I think it's about...
But some who don't care. Some who say, I don't care what that magazine say.
I mean, this takes us back to the age-old question of the Ballon d'Or and Cristiano Ronaldo. If he doesn't win it, he gets upset. He feels he deserves it. Yeah. He uses it as motivation.
Yeah. Which is fine. It depends on the character. I don't have any... Yeah, I think... maybe he wanted to prove a point, and he said, you know what? Not just for that magazine, but in general. Saying I'm not in the conversation about the best goalkeeper in the world. It's Neuer or Alisson or Ederson or Oblak. Why not me? And I want to show, maybe, I don't know. But
what gets me about this is, you're entitled to your own opinions. You're not entitled to your own facts. And if you don't put Courtois in the conversation, I'm entitled to then question everything about you completely. And your knowledge, and whether you should be watching a different sport. Because if you want to put Neuer ahead, or Alisson's better with his feet or whatever, that's fine. I look, these are slim margins. Or but what bugs me about this, and we get this all the time with lists, including the ones that we make, is people getting, not you and I, but we as an organization, because nobody can watch everything, right? You come very close, but it's difficult. So Oblak had a terrible season.
Yeah.
Does it mean Oblak is bad now? Does it mean he had a bad season?
You're right. Right.
Does it? But then people automatically put Oblak because of where he was 2 years ago. So these things are silly. I just thought it was interesting on his part. Certainly on the night, I don't think there was any argument about him being man of the match.
Crazy.
For me, the best save was the one off Salah in the second half.
100%.
What struck me about that is, and you can look at this and say, well, he didn't know about it. But there's still, and in some ways, yes, because he's got those incredibly long limbs. He makes his body really big. I thought I got quite poetic there in my match report. I said it was like a paintball exploding, where he makes and the ball hits his bicep. Now, if a ball hits your upper arm, it's not like it hits your hand, right? It's supposed to bounce off it and go in. But then his upper arm, he must have been flexing at the time.
Yeah, it's like a volleyball, almost like a kind of reaction on a smash from the other team or something. I think it's a close call between that one and the Mane one in the first half that he pushes on the post.
Right.
Well, pushes. I don't know if push is the right word, because with Salah being left-footed, when he comes like that on his right foot, it's a big chance that he's gonna square the ball across the goal. Right. So I think he knows he's not going to go near post, so he's going to go the other side. So I think he's almost ready for that. With Mane, he can easily curl it the other side or hit it near post like he does. And I think that he's so stretching. It's an incredible save. I love what Ancelotti said after the game, and I don't know if it's true. Karim has never mentioned it from training, but it might be true. But Carlo said after the game that there's times at training that he tells Courtois, let the forward score a bit. Because Carlo says he's that good that at training, nothing goes in. And you know when we're kids and you're not a goalkeeper, but you go in goal at the end of the training session and you say, like, okay, no one is going to score against me today. Well, you know it's not true because you're not a goalkeeper. But I can picture Courtois in my head, morning of the training, said, you know what, no one is going to score this morning at training. And actually no one does. For Carlo to say to him, listen, just for the confidence, let a few go in. It's mental. Whether it's true or not, I don't care. I love the story.
It sounds like something Carlo would say. In terms of some of the other big saves and the other what will go down as big chances for Liverpool, and I struggle with this a little bit because there's a guy, John Muller, The Athletic, who wrote a piece, and where he said, like, you know, kind of like an alternate Champions League final where Liverpool win 4-1 or 5-1 based on the XG and the chances created.
So XG is what, 2.2 or 2.4, something like that.
It's something like that. But basically, I mean, you know, very back of the envelope, whatever the chances they had where the XG was more than 50%, he kind of counted his goals and whatever, right? And like I've played this game so many times. I've done alternate histories of World Cups where different teams win, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you count it up that way, my Argentine friends and I, like, you know, Argentina's won 6 World Cups that
and
way,
Johan
right?
Cruyff as well, yeah.
Well, Johan Cruyff, not so much because obviously he didn't have that many. But like, you know, like look, Higuain scores in 2014, and look, Maradona doesn't get thrown out of the World Cup in '94. He definitely wins that one, and you know, whatever. You can do all these things, right? What gets me about those other chances, though, is that they were poor finishes too. Some of the other ones. Yeah. I'm thinking of the Salah header, which obviously was a big XG chance.
Yeah.
He completely misconnects with it.
Yeah.
There was another one. There was another chance also in the first half, and I'm blanking on who it was. I'm sure you'll remember, where the cross comes in, and it looks like it's not even a shot. It looks like it was like almost like a miscontrol.
Yeah,
like somebody
Salah,
wanted to take. Well, that was Salah as well, right?
On his right foot.
But then Courtois saves it, so that counts as a chance, right?
Yeah.
And that was a good position. So you put these things together, and you can say Courtois' man of the match because he made 2 out of this world saves, and you can kind of add up the XG. But I'm going to ask an uncomfortable question here. Did Liverpool's finishing kind of let them down a little bit? Because,
yeah, I think so.
You know, just because you create the chance, then you can praise them for creating the chance, but then you need that too, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. And there's a couple of times where it didn't result into a shot or a chance, but it was a 3v2, or there was clearly a better option from the guy on the ball than the one that he picked that could have ended up as a big chance or as a goal. So I think there's a few times in the composure, they lacked a bit of composure, and the end product, whether it's the straight finish and the shot or just the pass before, where they could have been far more precise. But I would put down tiredness, really, maybe a little bit of.
Well, the 2 Salah chances were in the first half.
Salah.
From Salah, yeah.
Yeah, but for example, the second one, the big one on his right foot, you know,
at the end,
but in terms of tiredness, where maybe at times, you know, you don't have the thought process of this is the right choice, I should do that pass here, and instead you put it on the left-hand side and it's the wrong one or whatever. I don't know. They've scored so many goals this season. And again, we said 5 games out of 63 where they don't score. This is crazy. You know, 5 games out of 63 is crazy not to score, but it's the biggest one that they didn't score.
On the other end, again, if we're going to take these alternate reality readings, you could argue that Real Madrid had 3 big chances, though obviously the Benzema disallowed goal, which we'll get to in a second, the one they scored, but also was at the end with the counterattack where he miscontrols it and Alisson comes out, right? That doesn't even count as an XG chance, and that's not a shot. That was a 3-on-2 counter. Now it's against the run of play at the end and whatever, and then that's So this is one of the weird things, and this is why I always tell people, look at the performance. Don't just look at the result. This could have, it could have been 5-1 Liverpool. It could have been 3-0 Real Madrid.
Completely.
Easily.
Right? And maybe that Benzema goal is allowed, comes earlier. Maybe
that changes the game.
But maybe that's even better for Liverpool. In the sense that, you know, Firmino and Jota come on earlier. instead of coming on in the 72nd or whatever, late, because Vini's goal is quite late in the game itself. And then you don't really have that kind of time to react too much to it, although I thought they reacted well to the goal. But yeah, you're right. Maybe it's a different game. We expected the pressure from Liverpool, and we got that pressure in the first half. All the Real Madrid could do really was playing long, which by the way brought the Benzema. The Benzema goal is a long ball from Alaba behind, but they didn't have much control. Then Kroos and Modric, I thought, who by the way got ratings of, Kroos got 3 out of 10 in L'Equipe.
Oh, that's enough with the L'Equipe.
I was
ratings.
like, what?
Please, can we just not go there, right?
The goal is a great build-up where they beat the pressure. The Liverpool pressure, by the way, decreased in terms of intensity through the game. We go back to tiredness, and I think that through the season they have been unable to keep that intensity for as long as they used to earlier in the season, which I guess is normal. But yeah, it could have, if Benzema goes in and is allowed by the French referee.
Let's break that down and understand why it wasn't given. So, well, take a step back before that, because I thought Benzema does really well. We disagree a little bit on how good a chance it was, because you think Robertson was there and Benzema couldn't have shot, or it wasn't as easy a situation.
Not with his right foot after first touch. That's why he comes inside, and then that opens him the goal. But Alisson is coming out so quickly that he can shoot, but I think he knows he's blocked by Alisson.
For me, I still expect him to score from there. Alisson coming out. For me, I expect the presumptive Ballon d'Or to make a different decision there, to shoot, and I expect him to score. And maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it's...
No. I see,
and if he'd done that, we would remember that as a huge chance and an Alisson save, by the way, as a tremendous Alisson save, right? Yeah. Which again, speaks the narrative and saves, and this stands out, and that doesn't stand out. But the reason it didn't, instead he squares it. Konate, perhaps unexpectedly, miscontrols it, doesn't clear the ball. And then you have, I think it's Valverde, Fabinho, and there's somebody else who's also coming in. All three of them come in. Fabinho, in the tackle, hits the ball. It goes back to Benzema, who turns and scores, right? And Benzema's obviously offside. Now, we all know that you can't be offside if the pass comes from an opposing player. So then what they have to decide is obviously accidental from Fabinho. It doesn't mean to...
Thigh or his knee,
But the question is, what you have to decide is, was he playing the ball and trying to hit a pass to somebody, or was it entirely accidental? I've spoken to several referees, and there's a textbook reading of it, and there's like a real world reading of it. The textbook reading of it, by the letter of the law, is that it's entirely fine for the referee to rule that was accidental, and the goal should have been ruled out. In the real world, one referee, now retired, who very recently retired, who I spoke to, said, I would have expected the referee to give it because it's a Champions League final, because it's that situation, because nobody can tell him if you give it, you're wrong, and then it opens up the game. But Turpin didn't do that. Turpin stuck with the laws of the game. Which is fine.
For me, from the moment you go and play the ball, like Fabinho, so that tackle from Fabinho is not just because the pitch is nice and you just want to slide on it, right? He slides tackle towards the ball because he wants to get the ball. He wants to get the ball out.
He wants to get the ball away, yes.
Yeah, otherwise he doesn't tackle there.
Right.
So for me, he's playing the ball. If the ball bounces off his knee, which is not what he wanted to do, it doesn't matter. The ball then ends up on Benzema. If Fabinho had been standing up there and the ball sort of ping-pongs off him, or bounces off him, with him not making any movement, then okay, you say that's not intentional. But he goes for the ball, Gab. He goes and plays the ball, and the ball ends up on Benzema's feet, and then Benzema scores. So I know it doesn't look like he means it, because it's not a pass from the inside of his foot. Hey, Karim, here you go. But he still goes to play the ball. So,
all right, it is just one of those situations where it's one of those rare. I think the referee has ultimate discretion, because he has to go and he's got elements to judge, but ultimately it's his discretion.
Yeah.
And I think
and that's fine.
If it's rolled off on the field, I can deal with it. I can deal with this one either way. I want to take it back to Carlo for a second, because he had a lot of praise for his defenders. And I was really struck by this as well. In the period when Liverpool were dominating them, I mean, I think, you mentioned Real Madrid couldn't play out from the back. I think in my notes, I had 25 minutes in was the first time Real Madrid had the ball in the in the Liverpool half. Now, again, if you want to go and tell me that it was earlier, fine, it was earlier. That's what I had in my notes.
Yeah, but
that's
no,
what it
but
felt
you see
like,
what I mean? They had zero
I
shot on
think
target.
35 minutes was Vinicius' first touch in the box. He said that because the game changed into something where Real Madrid just had to sit and defend. And by the way, we can criticize Real Madrid, say they're a counter-attacking team and everything, but they don't normally go through super long stretches where they're sitting and defending. All big teams, this is kind of against their DNA, unless you're Atletico Madrid, right?
Yeah.
What I love, what I was impressed with, and what I think really, really roused the crowd here was how they seemed to embrace it. There was Dani Carvajal recovery on Luis Diaz, what a poor game. You never expect Carvajal to catch Luis Diaz. Never, right?
It should not.
He does it, and then you feel this roar from the Madrid fans, almost as if the Madrid fans understood this is what we are, this is what we have to do, right? It's about Carvajal, it's about Eder Militao. I think on the subsequent one, they clear the ball away from the corner, and Alaba goes to sort of chest thump Eder Militao, right? We're used to seeing this from Chiellini. We're not used to seeing this from Real Madrid defenders. That was a big part of the ethos which saw them through.
Yeah, completely. And maybe they thought, this is a final where you win it by being solid, really solid. This Liverpool, if I don't know, they played another team, they would have maybe been a bit different. But it was very much like, let's make sure that we fight on every ball, that we tackle. There's always a leg. And there was, for most of the game, always a leg or a thigh or a block, or they read the game well and protect the ball, and the ball went out for a goal kick. I thought Mendy also had a really good game against Salah to a certain extent, because still when your keeper has to make 9 saves like he did, it's because defensively at times you've been struggling. Otherwise, if you protect your goal so well, then you don't concede so many chances.
Ancelotti said this after the game about how, their priority was we wanted to take away what in Italy we call the vertical play, right?
Yeah.
The ball to, not so much the ball over the top and then they run onto it, but more like Thiago Alcantara gets the ball and he hits like that blind pass, like the one he hit on the last day of the season.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the striker is behind your defenders. And he said that, throughout the game, Militao, Alaba, and Mendy were phenomenal at that. In fact, I think the Salah chance was the only time that they were able to do that.
Yeah, exactly. But Klopp said he wished that the team had played more through them instead of around them, like Liverpool did did for 90 minutes, apart from one.
He said he wished that. So why did that not happen? Because sometimes
Thiago Alcantara wasn't fit. I think it's as simple as that. And we go back again on what happened before the game in warm-up. You and I were not sat to each other, but I saw it pretty quickly. He was struggling in the warm-up. He ended up stopping the warm-up with the other 9 outfield
For those who don't know, and you want to explain this, for those who don't, even if you go to Anfield regularly, you might not see this because you might not be in your seat that early. What happens is the players come out for a longish 10, 15-minute warm-up before. And they do, the goalkeepers first, usually, then the players. And they do different drills. And different teams do it different way. The way Liverpool does is the first 11 kind of warm up together. And then you have the reserves warming up together.
Yeah.
What we saw, what you were describing there is Thiago leaves the 11 starters.
Exactly.
Goes to warm up with the reserves. And Keita joins the 11 starters.
Exactly.
And you also have Klopp talking to
3 times
Keita.
to Thiago. To Thiago first in the tunnel. I think Thiago even looked like he was going back to the dressing room. I think Klopp said to him, try again, try a bit more. So then Thiago is on his own with an assistant coach, just hitting the ball, running a bit. You see him doing stretches. Then Klopp comes back out. They have another shout. And this is all when we thought the game was kicking off at 9 p.m. French time. And you can see Thiago like clearly the body language was like, okay, I'm not starting now. And then Klopp goes and see Keita to tell him you're starting. Thiago goes to see Keita and saying you can see him putting his arm around him. Yeah. And then off they go, right? Then the game is delayed. And then when they come back for a second little warm-up, Thiago is back with the starters. So that delay clearly enabled him to start. But still, it was pretty obvious from quite early on that he was not himself. And there was a problem. He might have been 80% fit. I don't know. He didn't want to risk it, or maybe he could not do more. But I think what you lose by him not being fit is that verticality that you mentioned, and is the fact that then you could not play or try to play through Real Madrid. You had to play around, which is what they wanted, what they were waiting for, and what they were ready for.
I think I know the answer to this, but I'd like you to explain it since you played football at a higher level than I did, and most listeners probably did. If he's not fit with a muscular problem, what would take away? I can understand how it would take away his acceleration, his movement. Why does it take away his ability to be creative, receive the ball, and hit those through balls that he does?
I think he has to play deeper. So instead of playing higher up the pitch between the lines and trying to find those little pocket of spaces, like English people love to say, because then when you lose the ball, he would have had to make up the extra 15 yards to try to go back or do the counter press wherever it was. Whereas if you stay a bit deeper, then he obviously doesn't have to make that extra effort, which physically can cost him with the calf injury. So I think.
So again, hindsight being 2020, was this a game where maybe you could have made an adjustment and maybe sacrificed the high press a little bit the way they did, so that he can sit a little bit deeper? Because you're still going to win the ball back, you're still going to press effectively. Might that have been something? Try to suck Real Madrid forward a little bit. I mean, again, hindsight 2020, right?
Let them have a bit more of the ball, make your block a bit more median than so high. Maybe that would have helped. I don't even think he could counter press like he usually does, which I think then you lose a lot of Thiago's ability to help your team, and I don't know how the extra 30. Well, it was more than 36 minutes because they went back into the dressing room at 22-9. And then obviously kickoff was 9:36. So let's say 45 minutes for the sake of it in that dressing room, where they would have done more treatment on him. They would have maybe, I don't know what they did.
They came out to warm up again as well for a second warm up.
But how, I don't understand how they went from you can't start, it's too risky, or it's not helping, to okay, you can go, we give you the green light, you go. And again, for your narrative earlier, what happens if Keita starts? If the midfield is Fabinho, Keita, fully fit Keita and Henderson, and Thiago comes on for the last half hour or something like that, is the game different?
Yeah. All right. We just go through all this, not just a second guess. And
No, I don't.
But because people have to make real decisions in real time.
It's tricky. It's so good. It's so important for them. It's tricky.
Ancelotti, 4 Champions League titles. Nobody's won more.
No. And 2 as a player. So that's 6.
And a couple as a player. Yeah. One more as a passenger than a player.
Yeah.
But still,
he's got a medal.
He's got a medal. That's pretty amazing. Although I look back and I say, obviously the people who are on 3 are Paisley, the late Bob Paisley, and Zidane, who's on 3. Now, I've developed a little Zidane theory, which is I don't think we're ever going to see him again, because I think he's like the doctor from that cheapo Star Trek one that was Discovery, Captain Jim, where like he can only exist on the hologram. I think unless he comes back to Real Madrid, I don't think Zidane's winning anymore. Do you? Ever?
Why? We don't know.
I don't know.
Well, you think that anyone would have?
I think Zidane can only exist at the Bernabeu. I think when he goes away, he's a hologram, right? He's not real. So
well, he was there with us on Saturday.
But yet, it is tremendous. I think it shows that there are different ways to win, and that people. The man management side is obviously enormous. I think Klopp is a tremendous man manager too. I think Pep is a tremendous man manager too.
Yeah.
And the fact that these guys have other tools that they use and it's part of the narrative, doesn't mean that they're bad man managers. But in this situation, the empathy he has with his players, and remember he was there before, and he still had that empathy. Remember how Cristiano Ronaldo was furious when Ancelotti was sacked. He's going to be back next year, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like we're not going to do 180 and everything.
No, I don't think so. Is he the greatest in terms of success and trophies? For sure. I mean, the 5 big leagues is the only one. The 4 Champions League is the only one with 2 different clubs. Yeah. Is he a revolutionary like a Rinus Michels or Johan Cruyff or Arrigo Sacchi? I don't think so. But you don't need to have revolutionized the game to be one of the greatest.
But I do think what makes him different is that he was somebody who was trying to be revolutionary early in his career. He was Arrigo Sacchi's assistant.
Yeah.
So he understands all of that in a way that the people who are more conservative, more defend and counter, don't necessarily have that, because he was that guy. He was the guy who was going to think outside the box. He was that guy who was going to overthink things. He was that guy who was going to say the system comes first, the players adapt. And he's been on this journey, and I think that's part of the secret of his success.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.